Alright, good morning ladies and gents. Welcome to our next lab, which is going to be Pâte Choux, or Profiteroles, or a more common name is cream puffs. Now today you're going to be learning how to make what is called a choux paste. And no, not choux as in what's on your feet, but rather the French choux, C-H-O-U-X, Pâte Choux. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cooking this on the stovetop and then baking it in the oven before finishing it with either a pudding, a pastry cream, whipped cream filling, and then optionally to top it with a chocolate sauce. So, as far as the ingredients that you will need for the pâte choux, it's pretty simple. In pie crusts, we talked about that pastries are basically a mixture of flour, fat, and liquid, and of course then there's other flavorings and technique involved with that. So as far as the ingredients, in a saucepan I have 6 ounces of water, 6 ounces. I have 3 ounces of unsalted butter. I have 3 ounces of all-purpose flour. And then 6 ounces of eggs. Now, as far as weight measurements with that, I am giving a weight measurement here, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But as far as large eggs, that should be about 3 large eggs. If you're a couple, tenths of an ounce off as far as whether it's too little or too much, that's fine, but you want to get about 6 ounces. Now, as far as flavorings with this, because we are going to be going with a sweet profiterole here, I have about a tablespoon of sugar and about a half teaspoon of kosher salt here. Okay, so all this pastry is going to be made on the stovetop before it is then baked in the oven. So I'm going to shift the camera here and we'll talk a little bit more. Alright, so first step I'm going to do here is I'm going to preheat my oven to 425 degrees. And the reason why I have it so hot here, and the whole reason why we are doing this on the stovetop, is a cream puff is a pastry that is very light, very airy, and to do that, and to make that, we want to create something that has a lot of steam when it goes into the oven, or has the potential to create a lot of steam. And what that will do is it will puff up the pastry, but also leave a giant air pocket in the center of our choux pastry that we will be able to fill with creams and other fillings. So, first step is preheating the oven. Second step is I'm going to combine the water, the butter, and the sugar and salt. And I'm going to turn this on to high heat, or medium-high heat, okay? And what I want to do is I want to melt the butter, and I want to get this water up to a boil, okay? Keep an eye on this. You don't want anything to brown or burn. If it looks like it's sticking to the edges of the pan at all, turn the heat down, but should be okay as long as you swirl it every now and again. Should be good with high heat. And once this comes up to a boil, then I'll show you what to do next. Alright, now that the butter is almost melted, we got a couple moments here. What you can do here is you can substitute the water with milk. It'll create a pastry that's a little bit richer, but definitely a little bit softer and less crisp. But that is obviously up to you as far as your desired end result. Alright, now that the water is coming up to a boil, I'm going to turn down the heat to about medium. And I'm going to work in my flour. Now, I'm going to stir this together over medium heat, and what's going to happen is the flour is going to gel, and a dough and paste is going to start to form. And as you can see right there, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slightly cook the flour and just kind of cook off a little bit of that raw flour taste, but also I'm going to cook off any excess water here. And I will know this is ready when I stir this together and it wants to come together in a cohesive ball. So it's almost there because I have this on pretty high heat. it will happen pretty quickly. You'll see the dough will stick to the bottom of the pan a little bit. That is fine. Just try to work out any loose bits of flour that you see. Okay, and when you see it wants to just form together, there's no like scraggly bits like you see here, then you know you are ready. All right, it should look like this. It should look like it's forming together as one piece of dough. So I'm gonna turn off the heat and then I'll go to my next step here. All right, so I've got my flour paste here. I'm gonna take that out of the pan to just keep it from overcooking here. Now I just wanna let this cool down slightly here. Now I've got my eggs here ready to go, but while I'm waiting for this to cool slightly, a couple interesting things as far as this pâte choux. You can use this to make all different types of pastries. So today I'm going to be scooping them out using a disher to make a basic cream puff profiterole. You can put this into a piping bag and you can pipe out, cylinder-like shapes and create eclairs. You can also make various designs. I've seen people make like a swan out of the cream puff body, and then you pipe a little swan head that you then bake off. You can also use this as a base for a churro. What you would do is you would make this choux paste. You would then get a star piping tip. You would fill a piping bag with it, and then pipe that into a pot of frying oil. And then after it's done frying, you can then just roll it in cinnamon sugar, and you have a basic churro. So you can also do the same thing where you pipe it and you can cut it into little pieces, boil that, and you can make a choux paste gnocchi. Some of you may have had gnocchi in Italian restaurants before. This is a slightly different version, but you can still do it that way where you make a little dumpling out of that. You can also, if you want, after the paste is made, you can add in a little bit of shredded cheese as well and bake them up, and you'll have almost like a cheese cream puff in a way. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this choux paste. Okay, so as far as what to do next, I'm going to then go to my next step where I'm going to add this in one at a time as far as the eggs. So what I'll do is I'll add in one egg, and I'm just going to mix that in. Now what's going to happen, let me zoom in the camera here. What's going to happen at first is it's going to look like this kind of doesn't want to come together. It's going to look all kind of loose and greasy and soupy. Well, because we have a mixture that has a lot of fat and we just added in eggs, which has a lot of water. So it's not going to want to come together at first, but keep stirring and eventually it will form together into its normal paste. So I'm going to add in my next egg here. It's important that I do this one at a time. Now, of course, if you're doing this for a large-scale bakery production, you can, of course, go a couple at a time. But with our small batches here, we definitely want to take our time. Okay. So, again, it's not really looking pretty nice right now, but just keep stirring, keep persisting, and it will come together. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then last egg, right in. All right, and there we go. So, as you can see, I have a really nice paste here. And now I'm going to get my baking sheet and I'm going to go to my next step. All right, now I've got my baking sheet. I've got a sheet of parchment paper here. Now, you can, if you want to, you can fill a piping bag with the choux paste here, and you can pipe out little cylinder shapes and make eclairs if you want to. For this lab, I'm just going to keep things simple. I'm going to use a disher in order to create evenly sized cream puffs. So, how I use a disher is I scoop the pastry, and I use the edge of the bowl to act as kind of a scrape here, so that every cream puff is roughly the same size. Now, these are going to puff up in the oven, so I do want to give them some space, but I don't have to space them out nearly as much as I would, say, cookies. So now what I'm going to do, if I have any pointy bits here, I'm going to just take a finger, I'm just going to dip it in water, and I'm just going to press in those edges. So this way those points don't burn in the oven. Again, they don't have to be perfectly round, but we just want to avoid any points or tips that are going to burn. Alright, so now, as far as the baking time, what you are going to do is you're going to put this in your 245 degree oven. You're going to make sure that your ovens are not on convection bake here, so making sure that they do not have the fan going on in the back. Now, it's not a big deal if they do have the convection cycle on. It's just ideally we want to not have that here. And I'm going to bake this for about 10 minutes. Then, without opening the oven, I'm going to turn down the heat to 350 degrees, and then I'm going to bake it another 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how long it takes for these to get to the brownness level that I want. Now, again, always check on your cream puffs, check anything that goes into the oven well ahead of time, because you can always add time, you can't really take it away. So again, that is 425 degrees for about 10 minutes, then reduce the oven temperature to 350 and cook them for another 10 to 20 minutes depending on what level of doneness you want. Okay? And in this time, I'm going to then show you how to make the ganache topping that you can make with this. Alright, so now to top this, I'm going to be making a really simple but super delicious chocolate ganache sauce here. To make this is ridiculously simple. It's kind of a wonder why people actually buy this at the store, but regardless, how to make this is you are going to have in a bowl 3 ounces of chocolate, whether it's semi-sweet, milk chocolate, whatever you would like, chopped up. In a saucepan, I have 3 ounces, equal parts, heavy cream. And to this, I'm also going to add a good pinch of kosher salt. Chocolate definitely needs salt. And I've also got a pat of butter, about half of an ounce of butter, just kind of on the side here, waiting to finish the sauce. Now, you can do this in the microwave if you want, but this process is way simpler. All I'm going to do is just put my chocolate and salt in a bowl. I'm then going to heat up the heavy cream just until it comes up to a boil. And then what I'll do is I'll just simply pour that over the chocolate, wait a couple minutes, and then stir it all together. Now, as far as your ganache, you can just simply leave this as is, or you can add other flavorings to it, like espresso powder, cinnamon, whatever you would like. And what's great about this recipe so far is everything that we've been doing is just been ratios as far as mathematical formulas. Our ganache is just 1 part chocolate, 1 part cream, and that's it. And you can make small adjustments to it where you can change the texture and consistency of this ganache and make different things with it. So if I want to, I could double up the chocolate and make it 2 parts chocolate, 1 part cream, melt it down, wait for it to chill in the fridge, and then I can roll that ganache up into milk chocolate truffles. I can then do the opposite, where I double up the amount of cream and pour that over and make a more thin chocolate sauce. that is great over basically anything that you need a chocolate sauce for. Now also our pastry is the exact same thing. It's a ratio as well. It is 2 parts water, 1 part butter, 1 part flour, and 2 parts eggs. And from that, I can make all different desserts and pastries with it. This is what's great about pastry, is that if you memorize certain ratios and certain formulas, you can make a lot of different things even without a recipe. I think our pie crust was a 3-to-1 pie crust, where it's 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part water. And from there, we can make sweet and savory pies with just little adjustments here and there. Okay, so right now, my oven actually the timer just went off, so I'm going to lower the oven temperature, and I'm going to set for another 10 minutes or so. My cream is up at a boil, and I'm just going to simply pour that over the chocolate, turn off the heat, and I'm not going to stir this together just yet. I'm just going to wait for the chocolate to kind of sit in the heat of the cream, and then I will stir that together here in a little bit. Alright, so this has been sitting for about 5 minutes here. I'm just going to simply whisk this together. And as you see, everything is melted down. And everything comes together in a very delicious chocolate sauce. Now, what I'm going to do, just to add a little bit of richness and a little bit of shine, I'm going to add in a small pat of butter in there, just while this is still warm, and I'm just going to continuously whisk this in to emulsify that butter into the sauce. Not only does that add a lot of richness, but as you'll be able to see, that butter actually adds a very nice shine to our chocolate sauce that'll make this look really good on top of our finished profiteroles. Okay, so I'm just going to keep whisking that until the butter is fully melted. I'll then put this to the side, and I will then show you then what the cream puffs look like when they come out of the oven. Just one note though before I do that is, as far as the consistency of it, when it's warm it's going to be a lot thinner like this. If you want it a little thicker to make it dipping a little bit easier, then what you can always do is you can chill this in an ice bath. You can put it into the fridge for a little bit to chill it down. But I'm actually just going to leave it sitting on the countertop here, just because by the time I get the cream puffs out of the oven and everything, this should be cooled down enough. So there's our sauce. You can taste it and adjust any seasonings or flavorings that you want to put in this, but I'm pretty confident that this is good, so I will move on to my next step. Alright, so as you can see, they are out of the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish and fill them. So you can fill these with pretty much anything. You can fill them with pastry cream, you can fill them with whipped cream, you can top them with ice cream. You can even do savory applications like we talked about before with like a chicken salad mix or anything like that. What I'm going to be using, because I have some left over, is some pastry cream. Just some simple vanilla pastry cream. Now, as far as how you fill these, you can do it a couple of different ways. So after they have cooled down, you can, if you want to, you can get a piping bag or a pastry bag with a star tip, and you can just simply poke a hole in the side with the star tip and just simply pipe in the filling until you kind of feel the cream puff kind of start to swell up, and then, there we go. And then you can just simply fill it that way. So again, you just take the star tip, you kind of punch it through the side, and you squeeze in the cream just until you kind of feel it start to swell up like that, and then you can put that to the side. Now, this is one way to do it. The other way is you can just simply take a cream puff, and you can just, with a serrated knife, you can cut it open. And if you've done this right, when you open this up, you should have basically a pocket of air inside the pastry itself, where you can see it's kind of domed in shape. And you can just simply spoon on, or since I have the piping bag ready, just simply pipe on the filling and basically put the top back on. Now, of course, that then leads to a cream puff that doesn't look quite as nice, but it's significantly simpler. And when we dip it in chocolate, it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. So rather than making you guys watch me pipe every single one of these, I'm going to take the ones that I have already filled. I'll put the rest to the side here, and I am going to top them with chocolate. Now again, for this, if you want, you can just simply take the chocolate sauce and you can just simply spoon it over the top. Or what I'm going to do is, with the ones that I have not cut, I'm going to take them and I'm just going to simply dip them into the chocolate about halfway. And to avoid any streaks on there, I'm just going to let that drip out. Okay. And then when I see it's not really dripping anymore, I'll turn it over and I'll place that on my sheet. So again, just turn it over, dip, and then shake off the excess. Now, this is one thing where if you cut open your pastry in order to fill it like this one, you may not be able to do that without the top of it falling off. So you may have to just simply spoon that over the top. But again, it's not that big of a deal. So I'll try that here. Now we'll have some excess running over the sides, but that is okay. So again, play around with it. It's up to you on how you want to do this. Okay, and then from there, if I want to kind of make a display with these, I can get a plate and place these on, and then place one kind of stacked on top of the others so that I add a little bit of height to this. Okay, and like I said, as far as how you customize this is completely up to you, but there are our profiteroles. That is our lab for today. If you have any questions, let me know, or let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.